Okay. No. All right, just a couple of things before we get started, where Kate Rose is joining online. She has audio, she may be listening. And then yesterday, staff received an email that Jana Warner has resigned from the park board. So we will be seeking a new member to fill that position and the alternate. So Carrie, would you like to chair the meeting today? Okay.
All right, so we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Roll call. Stephanie, that's me, I'm here. Kate is online.
Kate, can you hear us?
And Tom. And we don't have an alternate, and then Councilmember Wiesner is not.
No.
Let's go ahead and move on to the approval of the agenda.
Oh, we need a second.
Oh, sorry. Okay, all in favor? Okay, so then we'll go ahead and do the approval of the minutes for our regular meeting on August 14th.
Did you get approval from Kate?
Kate, can you hear us? She may just be listening, she said.
Okay, all in favor? Right, do you have any public comments today?
It's like staff.
All right.
In the typically, I think we'll try, if we get something online, we would at least try to email it to you ahead of time before we read it. So,
All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to our discussion items. Item A, window problems for Dave.
So Brian Jones, every Monday, he is offsite. And he asked if we could schedule our time. So I was thinking maybe what we could do is do a committee and then we can just work with his schedule. And just sign up, or we just haven't been able to. He really would like to present it. He did make a note that as far as the footprint and the size, they're kind of locked into that now. I'm not sure exactly what that means, if that's just how far they are in the design phase. But, you know, all the aesthetic stuff, but he definitely wants to connect with you guys and all that for to make the meeting. I know one of the things that we talked about was the size of the structure, so I'm very interested to hear what that's to say about this for the design stuff. So yeah, maybe I guess we need to two for committee.
yeah, 3 is a quorum for this board.
I'll be happy to do that.
Does that fit under one of your subcommittees that we've already created? Because it should just pull those people.
We could put it under the facilities, which is right, it's not going to be as
Right.
for this. So Eric. Perfect.
We don't have Kate's not assigned anything.
She's,
We
Came on after.
There was a few things.
Yeah,
that
she
we
was at our
wrote her into
last
the last
workshop. And
She was.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did throw our name up.
Yeah.
on a few things. We can open discussion. We talked a little bit about the design last time. If there's anything that you would like specifically to get information from Brian Jones on, like a heads up to, hey, let's talk about these points.
yeah, I contacted him and asked him specifically for dimensions and the previous dimensions, but he never. So I don't know. Where to go from there.
Yeah, like a definition of what locked in means.
Mhm.
Other than that,
I've heard a number of his presentations, but I rather him answer directly to you than, I just don't have the depth from it, but, yeah, I mean, they talked about the size. And they've been going out, getting the engineering done on the size of what it is, the initial design, so. Yeah, can't say whether they're locked in or not, he needs to say that part too. Early on, this concept is what they've kind of been around for 2 years. So, trying to get the size, but given the uniqueness, they have to do a lot of engineering for it. It is a kind of a one of a kind design and functionality.
Has a lot of elements to stand up to also.
Yeah, I mean, whereas the smaller scale one was kind of the one that was already scale that was already done. And everything. It's just engineering to a different level. So
I don't think we have any opposition to the idea or to the location.
No, it's just the size. And I did have a question with the placement. Is it gonna be facing this way or towards the water?
It'll be facing towards the city.
So if you're in the park, you just see the back.
it's going to be facing Safeway. They originally were going to do the water. I guess that still can probably be rotated. I would think that even if you had the design, it would be easy to kind of rotate the placement.
I was thinking too, if they're gonna have it as a rental, where's the entrance to get in? Is that on the side with the blades? I assume. Because then people are gonna be walking.
The
you know,
blades won't move.
Right,
and
but
so
I'm
they'll have
saying
them
if
at
this is
an
the
angle.
park
It's a
And-
good point.
and this is the windmill and they enter from this side, it's kind of a weird. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it is off the main path. So it seems easier to draw a connection to the building there than the goods.
It's going to have a walkway off
Yeah.
off the main path. It's going to, yeah.
I'm
there's
just
a ways-
thinking if you're renting it out for an event that's larger than 15 people. That's not open into the park where you have space.
I mean, they'll have a round area around it. I mean, they're gonna do the brick stuff, so I mean, that's certainly something. That's probably, I would guess that's something negotiable. I mean, they drew it one way and then decided to go the other way, but then it's negotiable on where they do. The blade won't move,
Yeah.
and they cut it down about 10 feet by having the blade not go straight up. The blades go straight up, because I think if it went straight up, it's like 84 feet, so it's gonna be about 74 feet with the blades and 50 some odd feet with the building itself.
And this is last year's conceptual design, so. it- That the door would be. The window side. Side.
You look at the original Windjammer plan, there was supposed to be where Bay Shore and Bigsma was, there was supposed to be a roundabout and a small one there, but that doesn't really make sense. And I know that why we want to spend money making a roundabout there, it's the intersection is fine. Over there.
So I'm not sure. The existing sidewalk total wide, so. Not the path. the door.
Can we share that on the screen so everyone can see? Sorry.
Keeping in mind that this is, the first draft. of the update, so
Is he connected? You can just share.
No, get into it.
So orientation, is something that we want to talk about. From my point of view, I would like to have more discussion with them on the budgeting and fundraising for it. There was a lot of talk on how to go raise funds for it, but it's a long way to go. So I'm curious what the ask of the city is going to be along the way as far as, just hand it over to us for maintenance and operation of it. So. It's the walkway up to the door from,
I think it only has the one door. From the walkway.
one door, here's the back side. One side of the door. The original plans is oriented kind of towards the southeast, but so according to these plans, the door would be on the back side towards the parking lot. Not facing the park. The blades would be facing towards the path on this side rather than how it shows on this side. That, at least that's the last thing I heard from them. The idea being that to have the harbor as the backdrop for photo ops, that we anticipate this to be a big photo op area. With the size of the windmill, I'm kind of curious how far back you'll need to be to take pictures where that photo is taken from to get that in.
There's also that electrical panel in there too. System.
Where?
Just to the right of the path. Coming out of the windmill. It's in that green spot, it's right in there, yeah.
So that's it. Somewhere.
Yeah.
Might even be worth us doing a site visit with them.
Oh, yeah, look at the blade. It doesn't go all the way down. It only goes down to the second story. So the issue, it shouldn't be in the way of the door.
No, I'm not worried about the blade being in the way of the door. I'm just worried about,
How people access. it.
yeah.
The functionality. of-
Yeah, utilize the kitchen area,
Mhm.
that interaction. It's gonna be-
So question, we still have the steel structure from the internals of that. Should we ask him if he wants those parts from the original one?
so,
Should we be scrapping those?
So we have steel beams.
Well, it's about a 12-inch steel pipe with mounting brackets to mount, so I don't know if they can engineer it in, put a piece of the old windmill back in it, or if it's just not even worth wasting time on.
Someone had asked me, there was a plaque in the original windmill. Do you still have that?
I can look around for it, but I'm thinking not. We kept all the windmill parts that we stripped out in one location, so I can go look and see if there's something there for that.
Yeah, because there was some people who had requested that that be on display in some way.
I was kind of wondering, that's why we kind of hung on to those pieces in case we wanted to do something like that, and I just wondered how we fit that in there if we were going to do that.
Okay, so orientation, interaction with the usable space. I know in our last discussion, there's also some talk about wanting to have a kitchen in there. Is that going to drive a lot of the design of it, and how much is that needed for the park? Is a kitchen the best use of that space? Some other ideas that we're talking about was maintenance storage or concessionaire space for either rentals of recreation equipment, like bikes and paddleboards and things like that, or food vendor concessionaire.
We're at the same place that we were last week, because we need to hear from like the vision creator in order so we can have a better understanding. So then we, can even really know what questions to ask, because right now we're asking sort of into the air with against an idea that's not fully been birthed. That makes sense.
And they're still working on it. Yeah, it's still very conceptual at this point. Okay, so we'll try and schedule a site visit. Still haven't gotten back to me that the time. Eric and Carrie. Well, that, I mean, at that point. I'll send them kind of heads up on some of these items we want to go over.
Let's go ahead and move on then to item B. Request for proposals for the pickleball courts.
Appreciate everyone's feedback on the RFP. Looks like we're kind of leaning more towards 8 courts with footprint for growth if needed. And some of the research as we looked around some of the communities that had like 6, 8, whatever, they seem to be full all the time throughout the week during the playable season. So I think just for budgetary considerations as well as support infrastructure requirements for it, we won't go to 12, we'll scale back down to 8, or might even maybe 6 as we look at it. That'll be part of their the RFP is just analyzing the appropriateness of the size for the community. We added in, we removed Fort Nugent specifically as a park. We named it, but we have the park selection as part of the RFP now, with consideration for Yale Park as well, which was the original site for doing pickleball court projects. Just with concern around the increase of parking usage and interaction with other things that are happening at Fort Nugent, if that footprint becomes smaller with the school district building facilities on there. So looking at the appropriate site is part of the RFP now. We removed some of the specification details and we'll leave that to the designers, like the court surfacing, concrete versus asphalt. We have concrete in there. Concrete requires a little more of a watershed engineering as opposed to a more permeable asphalt. But instead of telling them exactly what we want, we'll let them tell us what's probably the best material as well as cost considerations with each. We include consideration for support infrastructure, parking, restrooms, spectator waiting seating, proximity for noise pollution to residential areas and different things like that. Added in barrier fencing between the courts, 3 to 4 foot, just wall stop fencing. Added wind barrier. We had listed sound barrier screening. I imagine that doubles, but we specifically put in wind barrier as well, just to make sure that the screening that we place on the fence will serve both purposes. And then included spectator seating area, walking corridors between the courts, and consideration for expansion plan in the design. If it's a runaway hit and we have the community utilizing it to 100% and they'd like to see more courts, we can look at additional areas as well, but also possible expansion. If we like the location, it's more of a terminal play location. And then just made a few little minor edits. So include all those. I sent it over to Sandra for her to kind of polish it up and look at, and then we'll send it back out to you guys. Do the final look, see if you have any other recommendations and edits or thoughts before we post it.
Taking back to the location description. You're talking about locations within Fort Nugent.
No, just different park locations. So we had very specifically listed where in Fort Nugent we wanted it. We had expanded to looking at areas within Fort Nugent, and now we've kind of expanded again to include Neal Park, which was the park where we originally were going to put the pickleball courts. But also to have them just look at our available parklands and see if there is for the design we want a more appropriate space.
So we're not tying it down to Fort Nugent.
Right. Yeah, so we're not tying our hands. They'll be part of their analysis. Well, here's different areas and what cost savings you might have in site prep or support amenity, things like that.
Somebody mentioned it previously, is there going to be a public comment period for the somebody had mentioned.
We usually do public comment on RFQ.
I
I
wouldn't
think,
think
I think
so,
once
but I
we
thought-
have a designer on, we'll probably have some open houses just to have the designer listen to the community about, hey, this is what we
Oh,
like. Usually at that point. yeah.
Anyone? Okay, so we'll go on to item C, site visit reports, so we get inspiration at this next trailhead and 3 totems at Oak Grove.
I just put that on there. That's the one that the Arts Commission, I don't remember who was going.
Well,
Tom.
Which ones? which are-
The scenic hike trail.
Yeah,
You
I
met
know
out
where
there.
that one, we walked through that. Well, what's this green to it? What is that?
That's all the way out where the all places were.
Oh,
The Oak Grove
Yeah, there's tree
area.
grove and stuff up there.
Oh, Centennial Park is sometimes what it's referred to as, okay.
You want to just give a little update on your meeting with,
yeah, it was very informal, and most of the discussion was between themselves. I got the impression that they really liked the idea, they liked the location, and they thought they could. They were kind of playing with their own ideas as to what they could do. They mentioned the possibility of having turnover of art, so that it could be rotated by location, so they could put. I don't know exactly where they're gonna end up with their ideas. I got the impression they were gonna come talk to you with some kind of a proposal or questions they might have. Their desire. It seemed positive. Kate and I have no objections to the concept. Personally, I would have been seeing it as foliage. So there are enough open spaces as you walk down that trail. Some of them,
On
tend
the-
tend to get underwater during the winter. But we would have to take that. into consideration.
little open space alcoves that mostly have to be on the south side because that's protected wetland adjacent on the north side. of Vermont, where a lot of that growth is. We can trim it back, but going in and putting cement pads in there, might be a little tricky.
Are we allowed to remove the invasive species that are there though? Like blackberries and all the,
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything in the zoning use for it that prevents us from doing. We just are pretty limited on like development.
Yeah.
And there's certain pieces of it that are non-touchable, just like no-go,
Yeah.
anything in there. And like there's, let's see, just on the side of the field where those blackberries are really kind of growing over into it. That, all that water, wetland area, we're not supposed to do anything in there.
So the area I struggled with when we did the conservation futures is we didn't do a vegetation plan. The other projects I was competing against had the vegetation. Figuring out where it goes where, and I think the whole marsh area, Friend Marsh, that about 35 acre, at some point we have to figure out, do we just keep on mowing it or do we put it in the vegetation? What we did, we've just kind of been mowing it as is. It was kind of farmland and it was actually hay, but it never produced very good hay, so we couldn't get anybody to continue to bale it for us. So now we're stuck kind of maintaining it. The other small piece, the 8 acre piece, I mean, we planted stuff in there. We did a vegetation plan and put trees in, and then it became somewhat a homeless campus, so we had to up the vegetation a little bit to restrict it, and then we restrict people from going into the bushes. So that's the negative side of getting too much vegetation.
We have been working with the county on some of the weeds in there. One in particular is the Japanese knotweed. You can see it along the roadside there. I'm pulling some of that out, and it's kind of tricky because you break pieces off and it just starts sprouting everywhere. So we don't want to mow it. You got to pull it or spray it, one of the two. So, but we were working with the county on that.
My only question was one, because that's some of the unsafe stuff too, as the under dies and it always grows on top of it. That's also where homeless folks will like to get it underneath there and create themselves a semi-waterproof canopy. Also, it's if we put in art down there on either side, obviously, gotta be on the south side, that's the stuff that is gonna grow the fastest to make as quick as possible, even worse than the human problem.
So when you're talking Seymour Heights Trailhead, you're not talking right where at the top where the town is then?
Where
Where
it is?
Scenic Heights is? You're talking about putting our pieces?
No.
You're not talking on top where there's the native sign and then there's a stone, 2 stone things on top. You're talking about down lower?
Across the bridge as you're coming from Scenic Heights Street. Come down, it's a slight decline, and then you cross the first bridge.
Yeah, okay.
And I think that we were talking about beyond that,
Oh,
over
okay.
to the plane. Not above that.
I think you'd get away with putting stuff in there. I think that would be possible.
Yeah. There's a concept and artists do that. They rotate their pieces every 2 years. Artists tend to build more pieces than they have available. So there is sculpture parts and there was a major effort on leasing the school district property next to the chamber there. It's the previous superintendent just didn't want to bring it forward. And didn't go into huge effort to try to do that. And then that's where the 4 pieces originally from the Kennedy were supposed to go. We made the permanent pieces and now they're trying to figure out. So we've got 2 of them placed and 2 more that need to be placed here. So one of them was supposed to go in Flintstone, but now that they're putting the creativity into the Dodd there, they are looking for a different location for the Gates of Inspiration piece. And I think the 3 totems was always conceptually out there at Centennial Road. So the road's going through now. We haven't really developed any parking and that really wasn't considered to be much of a park area. It's more of growing seedlings and stuff for the roach trees.
What a waste of an art installation though. I mean, I haven't seen the 3 totems unless it's really hideous. It seems to me like it's a waste to kind of just put it out there knowing we're not having parking, knowing we're sort of using it as a road, knowing there might be another place to kind of do nursery for maturing trees. Is throwing an art piece out there on a piece of land that we basically deemed as mostly unusable because it's a high risk crash area. To me, that kind of feels like a throwaway. I mean, I'd be out and doing if I was just trying to get stuff out of the yard. And that's totally fine. I'm cool with that. I just, for clarity's sake, that feels to me like if I was that artist, I feel a little bit frustrated. One that basically nobody's going to experience except the workers that might be in the nursery, knowing that we're not activating the place for parking. We're basically not encouraging people to go there.
Well, if we
It's-
do put it there, I think we have to put a couple of parking spaces. We could.
It- Just listening to their conversation, it would be on the corner closest to the roadway. So it'd be a visual coming in, not necessarily, it's like 3, is it 3 like rust colored
Yep.
vertical.
They do the sandblast, they got tapes all over them and stuff, so they'll need some sort of work.
So more of a visual coming in, maybe not something you go and touch and
And we
feel.
are allowed
This is
1
the
person per acre out there,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that allows for about 15 people at the most.
At the risk of sounding like a jerk, I guess, for lack of a better words, that's if you've parked at that corner for any amount of time or driven by it, are you thinking to yourself, now here's a place that really calls for a piece of art, looking at the surrounding community there? I mean, again, I'm not trying to be unkind, but I'm looking at what's actually there and thinking, does this, I mean, if we're trying to bring up that corner, great. You know, we're trying to kind of make that area look a little nicer. I get all that. I have questions about it, knowing that it's not exactly what you call a destination neighborhood. I'm trying to find good words here.
Can you
It's
pull
just-
up the picture?
I don't know, I think it's kind of neat. I'd like to see it used. I mean, and to that end, I think we should walk before we run a little bit with our art before we start doing a rotating kind of notion. Let's make sure we can actually get installations in the ground with a cohesive sort of plan for it. And then we can move and graduate towards doing rotation, because I don't think we've been exactly maybe able to handle or even trustworthy in that area with getting our art pieces out for whatever reason. There's nobody's fault there. It's just how we've sort of evolved and developed as a city. But I'd like to see us do something with this and then put it in places where both the artist and hopefully our people here would enjoy and be able to enjoy freely, not 15 at a time. But be able to actually experience these pieces of art, and that we can continue to enhance this as part of the culture of Oak Harbor rather than putting something way out there.
So what's your recommendation there?
I don't recommend say not to put it there.
In the city?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see art in places that people are more likely to engage with it. And then we don't have to try to develop parking out there and a whole bunch of other stuff, and let's just leave it be the tree development and Oak Grove out there and put it in a place where people actually congregate and gather. So they can experience the art. I mean, I'd like to see an art law in much the same way that the Gary Oak Society is trying to do something with those trees. We kind of have these pieces around, it's kind of been conceptual, but I'd like to see some of that actually get developed
Yeah,
to a greater extent.
interesting enough. We were trying to develop this idea and then, anybody have been to the one in Cookville? Yeah, somebody who had plenty of money and a huge acreage, we put it on a nice parking lot and opened up a facility. And so the person that has the Acorn, Patrick, what's his last name?
McVeigh.
McVeigh, I mean, he has about 3 pieces in that there, and he's the same artist that did yeah. So, I mean, that was the concept. We were gonna cluster a lot more together and the area for the school district property.
Yeah.
I have a similar thought. I didn't voice it, but Scenic Heights Trail. It's a very nice trail. People who use it and really like it. It's joggers and walkers, and dog walkers, and people who stroll. But it's not a thoroughfare. I mean, it's not the thing you like. It kind of goes to your comment. It's not something you would see because you're in the area. You would only see it if you went for that purpose or you were using the trail for existing things. So I'm not saying that's a major drawback. I mean, it could anyway look pretty good. But it's kind of over here.
Yeah.
And people aren't just passing by.
Well, if you know it as a sculpture park, people walk on it. I mean, yeah,
So you think that would draw some usage to it?
I mean, people will walk to see sculpture. pieces,
Okay.
So, it doesn't have to be exactly by clustering them together. It's just kind of an interesting thing. You walk and say, I like this piece or I don't like this piece. I mean, there's a huge one on the north side of San Juan. I don't know if you've ever been to that sculpture park. Yeah, I mean, it just keeps on bigger and bigger.
And I'm not saying it's not a good idea.
I think it would help activate that land. And that's
Yeah,
one of
I
the
think
things
it's a
that
really good idea, actually.
brought up. And knowing that we're gonna have Angelica Creativa down at Flintstone, and that we're talking about shoreline restoration, extending things all the way out to Catalina Park.
Yeah,
I
and on,
think
and on
tying
that
from
point, we do have the vision of, kind of making this sort of boardwalk concept, right, from Flintstone to Catalina Park. Nice, wide, easy walking trail along the shoreline, great place to put art sculptures and pieces on.
I think going from that trail on Scenic Heights all the way out to Catalina, and knowing that we've already got some pieces speckled in along the way, and this one don't qualify, so I guess that fits in somewhere along the journey as well. But we've got stuff there which might really enhance that overall thing. Plus, kind of that area gets used for marathon. There are tons of walkers and runners and dog walkers down there. And I think it would do something to that space besides having it be the old remnants of a bad hayfield. The only thing it's gonna do is draw people down there in allergy season, so we should probably think, if we're gonna activate that, controlling some of the vegetation a little bit better, because that does create a lot of a hostile tolerance with all them for a lot of folks down there, but again, one step at a time.
Any other thoughts around the sculpture pieces? The art commission will be meeting soon. That's some of your comments.
And so one other thing on that too, knowing that we've also placed things kind of on the triangle of Midway and 20, and Pioneer. I think, now we have this other baseline for the triangle that kind of extends it out, but then continuing to do other pieces that work along that sort of historical traveling triangle that's kind of been the strip, as it's always been from people from way back when. And it already ties into what we have there. So we can have the waterfront, and we have these other pieces, that we move along those areas. And since we never did get the sculpture park at Rotary, we can still kind of enhance that roadway as well, beyond just the trees. Seem to always stay at this diameter no matter how old they get.
Put it at the center, corner of Jerome and.
Yeah.
Don't block your sign now.
Anything else on that topic? All right. Let's move on to item D, the accessible playground.
So this kind of goes along with our next item of scheduling subcommittee meetings, since we haven't been able to meet some of our conditions and what's actually. Councilor Bean's case, some of this hard to schedule. So we've had staff out, I've been out. But I did have a conversation with Jeremy Webb with Suntech Recreation. And he provided me with a quote for a accessible playground around the parameters of what we've talked about in some of our committee meetings in the original concept. So we have 163 and 74 for equipment, 25,000 installation, 200 freight. So the total estimate for playground costs is $271,280. Does not include site preparation, however, so we'll want to consider. Total safety zone square footage is 13,417 square feet. Square footage calculation is approximate and for estimation purposes only. Landscape structures. So anyway, so we have a starting point to talk about when we meet with the subcommittees on the accessible playground. So getting a little bit of just some numbers together and something that we can work on as we look at that.
400 to 500K is what you're looking at. City I came from, they were conceptually doing one for $1 million.
They usually, you can almost expect them to double in cost from, okay, this is what we'd like, and then as you go through and everyone adds in a little bit.
So it could easily be $1 million, but you gotta look at location where you put it.
That's what I was gonna ask. Have we had any thoughts about location, like redoing an existing playground or adding
Well,
an entirely?
We know Fort Nugent is going to soon come to the end of life.
Yes.
As all those wooden playgrounds do. They're always super beloved. They're great community projects, but they don't have a long shelf. Something we could eyeball. Great to add inventory rather than a replacement, but something I'll talk about. We do have the west end in General Park. There's a lot of potential for that. Neil Park is up in Slate right now.
You'll have parking.
Yes, it does at Girl Scout and outside garden.
It's got a big.
Which can be
open-
expanded. We have to
Because
look
it
at
has to have parking, yeah. You can't do it in some of the smaller. Parks.
thing to keep in mind with this is, obviously with an accessible playground, they usually end up being a very regional draw. Families will literally drive an hour to come to a good accessible playground. So we
I'm
can
sure
show that we have
that my
appropriate,
grandchildren.
appropriate parking with plenty of handicap spaces. Is also important.
And a restroom facility there, because
Yeah, I
there's
was
not.
thinking about that too, a restroom.
Really makes sense. So in any work with a gym. Just want to start laying out all those qualifications. The square footage.
You definitely could fit everything into Neil Park.
Yeah.
With the playground and parking lot and bathrooms.
Yeah.
Fort Nugent, depending on how much space you want to take up, could reconfigure a few things. Windjammer is easy. We have other areas that definitely could fit the footprint. but it would be tight with the support infrastructure. And then we have some parklands that are just, kind of what you want, so like Harbor Heights and Seventh.
I'm just thinking, if you're giving somebody to drive an hour to come to the park, you want them to drive to Elwha to go, then, or do you want them to, showing up at Neil Park, or do you want to put them down at the waterfront, where then also they're gonna have access to the other things that people are gonna be driving over an hour for, with kids, then are gonna need to, which are all down there to, enhance the experience beyond just the playground. Because I don't think any of the other properties necessarily do that, or they're just too cramped and it's in a residential area. When Jefferson sits around, that's bordered by commercial that has the real estate.
And you get super busy though, and that's the same with Fort Nugent, so.
Yeah.
Numbers.
I think that's a good discussion for this.
Great segue.
We'll play Tom.
All right, subcommittee meetings.
Are we just looking for dates on that? Do we want to look at some kind of a recurring schedule? That makes sense. So we're not talking about it.
That way it feels like standard work.
It seems like there's enough there.
She is called.
Yeah, just absolutely, I agree.
Let's see what.
I
Jana,
did something,
media are placed.
move the ball.
At the end of our meeting, we'll have to talk about that next time. We don't have to.
Yeah, I think that was his intent with this, is to schedule your meetings, so we don't have to
Yeah.
try to do it by email.
Okay. So let's go and start with the facilities, since we do have discussion on dog parks as well, the inclusive playground and the sports facilities. So it's looked at between Carrie, Kate, and Tom, and Eric, Patrick, and Jan. Patrick, let's go with Patrick.
Who's- I don't know who that is. Was it Ronnie? No, Ronnie.
That's a typo.
It's a typo.
Eric, do you know who we had talking about dog parks and the sports facilities, disc golf, pickleball courts, social fields? What's his on there?
I think it was Jana.
Yeah, I had
and-
Gianna. Who's the third person?
I don't originally, Callie was on that. And then,
Or Eric.
yeah, there might have been another. Sounds right too. I know we did some tallies on them, but we just reshuffled around. So.
Well, without Janet, we'll need to assign one or two more to that.
Yeah, I'll email them who is actually going to be on each subcommittee, because I think that's questioning that every time we talk
I was
about
gonna
it.
say our first meeting, but it's be a week before we are.
So I have, for the inclusive playground, I have Carrie, Kate, and Tom. For sports facilities, dog park,
Doesn't it have to just be two people? Is three of
Well, technically, committees in the state don't have to comply with the open
But
meetings
we-
law.
oh,
But we do.
What we strive to. So, but, yeah. But we can't do executive sessions. So,
so we're trying to just do two people for a subcommittee then?
And a staff member, I thought that's how,
We could do
in
that.
workshop is
Yeah.
how kind of you discussed it.
We'll need to kick someone off of the playground one then.
Then you could just put that on your agenda, so everybody knows every time.
I had just had Kate and I on the inclusive playground and then
You all right, being taken
Sure.
off that one, Tom, and I put you on with Eric for the sports facilities? It's easy. Let's see here, programming and partnerships. I had Carrie and Janet, so we need a new person on that one.
You can put Kate on that.
I see that Kate's not there, but I do think that would be one she would be
Yep.
Okay.
interested in.
Yep.
Just plug in stuff.
Yeah.
And you will have a new person at some point. So if there's something that's a little farther down the road that, won't be starting right away, that.
For opportunities for underutilized lands, parklands. Janet, Eric, so need someone new.
Some kind of synchronicity between the facilities though.
Yeah, we could just, include that.
Consolidate.
And then Eric, Tom, Kate on safety issues, counters for monitoring parkland usage and demographics. Ooh, you on that one, Eric? Or since got another numbers here, it just has Tom and Kate.
And what was that one called? Just, oh,
Oh,
safety.
yeah,
Yeah.
safety, demographics, homeless issues.
Okay, got it.
Economic impacts of parks and recreation. Tom, Janet, and Eric. That could probably be combined with our updated parks and recreation master plan. Had a carry Kate on that one with Sabrina. Who are we missing? Tom? Eric,
Carrie.
Kate, Carrie.
We only have 4 right now because Jana resigned. So this is only a
Do we
5-person
have
board.
a vacancy for our alternate?
Mhm.
Because we're missing 2 then, right?
Yeah.
But the alternate would only participate if a member is not like, they wouldn't normally vote on something.
Right, but we'd have to know. Still spread the work a little bit. Tom and Janet for powers and duties, although I think we're kind of done with that for right now. So I'll take Janet off that. So we have. So let's do Carrie and Kate for master plan, and we'll just add the economic impacts in as part of that. Take, Tom off that.
Mikhail can get that on the agenda, so.
Let's see, so we got.
Easy to
Karen
remember.
on 3, Kate on 4, Eric. 2. And Tom on 4. Or 3, I guess. 'Cause we went to the- So Tom's on 3. And you can go on our park board priorities, the shared document, and you can see that.
You couldn't get to it?
Probably just not.
I can resend the link to you.
I put together my own worksheet just to make more sense, the same information. I can't remember exactly. But it got all the key issues in with the, how we word, how we business. I can share that with you, or we can go, when we talk about our recreation meeting. So when we get together, are we gonna be getting together as subcommittees, or are we gonna be getting? We are. So we'll be focusing on specific issues and to the completion. Yep.
Let's shoot for preference, morning, lunchtime.
9 to 12 works fine for me. Whatever works. I'm not working, so
You guys are all fairly
I'm easy.
flexible and scheduled enough.
Yeah, during the school day, I'm open, so I'm just gonna do like. after school.
First thing in the morning, right after it's all work for me. So if we can do any time between like 9 and.
So like you,
as
the
far
10,
as start
12 works for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. Schedule the first one for Wednesday, the 27th, then at 10 o'clock. Do you want to start out with adaptive playground or sports facilities? Do the next one, the following Wednesday, the 4th.
I think sports facilities would be, because we have kind of open items. 7%.
And those will be at the public work, at your office, right?
We'll
Yeah.
do it in our office. And then the adaptive playground will be then October 4th, 10 o'clock. I will shoot an invite out to you guys. Okay, great. Start with this. Next board meeting, we'll schedule. We'll schedule programs and.
So item S, information for the report.
A couple updates for you guys. Just to let you know, on September 1st, the Washington State Advisory Council on Historic Preservation did meet, and they nominated unanimously to accept Smith Park for listing on the register. So that has gone through, and we'll probably get a letter notice from them. At some point, we'll probably take that back to city council to present or have to include that in his administrator update. Laura Renninger, actually, I guess she did come and
She already
talk about
updated the
that,
council,
updated
yeah.
the council on
In
that.
about 3
Appreciate
minutes,
you, let's see. We had already talked to you guys about the Gary Oaks Society. We want to put up a tree tour sign of the park. We don't have any posts to put those up on. I think we had old post with a sign talking about how the park would not be mowed. It was a old initiative by them. Since changed that plan and removed those signs. So just quick feedback if you care at all about where we would put a new post or where we put that sign, or if you don't really have a preference or thoughts on it, we'll just work with them on a placement where it would be. We also met with them out there to look at placement and start engineering structural drawings for a new park identifier sign with those 2 granite slabs that we have there. I'm going to try and push our engineer we're working on, Brett, with that to see if we can get that in place for the centennial event for the Garmin Club. If not, it won't be a huge deal, but that'll be on the southwest side of the park near the pathway. We'll install those. They plan to be kind of offset from each other a little bit, and we'll have Smith Park. And I think the idea was to also maybe include the year, although that's going to be a little bit up for debate on what year we actually put there. It was used as a park before the city was incorporated. So I don't know, we'll probably talk about it.
My only concern with the sign as far as information, make sure the font is large enough for some of the say vision challenged folks in our community. I've had a few comments about that, just making sure that folks of different age and eyesight are able to read those well.
Yeah, I have a
Because sometimes we have captions on photos and things that are really interesting, but there's a lot of squinting and hunching. And
The original ideas was to sandblast the letters into the rock.
Yeah.
And since then, they have changed to more like housing style numbers or letters mounted on the rock. So they'll be drilled and bolted and epoxy to the rock.
This is what the sign looks like.
it's perfect.
Let's see here. We have a grant that's going in, a local parks maintenance grant, so $100,000 with no match requirement to the Recreation Conservation Office. We also did get approval through our city's grant or funding committee that Wendy Horner, grant manager, works with to redirect 45,000 that we had for shoreline restoration for that project as well. We also have funding in Windjammer Park for anything over 100,000. We will do. We're not specifically calling out the infields as part of this project, just because we'll want to get that done before the award of this grant. So the grant focuses on repair and replacement of the dugouts, replacing the bleachers, replacing the backstops, laser grading and lip removal between the infield and outfield, just to remove that unsafe condition, aerating the outfields and repairing the scoreboard. So it really is going to be the whole fix.
What fields are these?
The ball fields. Right, yep, right down here. We're getting a letter of support from the Little League, and then we're also looking for just a couple of families to write that utilize the fields to write letters of support. If you have anyone you know that you think would be good for that, let me know. Otherwise, we're asking to reach out to the families that are registered and see who would be willing to write those letters of support. We got a letter from some of the tennis users at Summer Park. We just had kind of an altercation with some members of the public that were doing dog training in there. Just calling out that the signs we have there, prohibits from things like bikes, skateboards, or rollerblades. The altercation came in where there's kind of, I guess, a conflict of use. Send this out to you guys, but I'll read it because they did ask for the park board to discuss it. But it says, given that these two courts are the only courts available for tennis recreation in Central Oak Harbor, the park division and park board should determine whether to allow dogs inside the courts for any reason and clarify the existing signage, current code violations in parks that are infractions are stated on the sign outside the court's entry. Another sign prohibits bikes, skateboards, and rollerblades. Several tennis players and a person training their unleashed canine clashed over the interpretation of the posted signs at the tennis courts on August 30th. The trainer and German Shepherd sized dog were doing obedience maneuvers inside the tennis court fence. Perhaps the person thought he was within her rights based on interpretation of service dog exception. The strident trainer resisted our repeated attempts to explain that it was illegal to conduct such an activity inside or outside the tennis courts of the park if the dog was unleashed. Key part of this request for clear, adequate signage was a result of the irrational and intolerant behavior of the trainer that was inflicted on the tennis players. Next door neighbor who spends volunteer time using a leaf blower to sweep up the courts sees dogs frequently inside the courts and they are not playing tennis. We understand this is an issue on the city's baseball diamonds as well. The tennis players are respectfully suggesting that the park board change the wording of the signs to specifically prohibit dogs and other animals inside the tennis courts. The potential for the court damage or defecation is great, as the tennis group can attest. It should not be a huge expense as some of the park courts or only one of two facilities in our park. Thank you for the opportunity to inform the park division and park board if appropriate. The concern over the clear signage. Thank you also for the new tennis net, recent post replacement at these courts. Please continue your efforts to maintain these courts. So really, that kind of
Training, how's it supposed to learn to play tennis?
yeah, it kind of goes to the larger discussion around, I guess, the need for an enclosed off-leash dog area. This is cool.
That's what I was thinking. I talked to them, all three of them on the phone. When I talked to them, I kept thinking that needed to be brought back to you about the off-leash dog areas. That's part of that issue.
Something to consider, keep in mind when we as a committee talk about that. We are conducting tree inventory mapping with DNR. Our asset management software, we already have some layering. There was an inventory that was done like 6 years ago, so that's going to get updated. Now we have an arborist to kind of help work with that. We are also looking at revising the street tree code ordinances. While we need to have some discussion around responsibility for maintenance, replacement, planting of street trees, what's put on the adjacent property owner, just clarifying that language. Avenues for assistance, it can be very cost prohibitive, especially for moving tree, large stature trees. So all that kind of really needs a good update and bring some discussion back to city council on that. So another thing we'll cover in our committee is we have gotten 6 responses to our RFP for federal government relations. Blaine's leading that out with some members of the council and some staff. We'll be reviewing those and someone on that will be working with staff and our grant manager. Several different areas for infrastructure, public works, the marina. We've also, with great success, utilized these kind of firms for getting good park funding for development, acquisition, improvement of parks. So in total, I've probably gotten $4.5 million or so through federal lobbyists for grant park initiatives. Active playgrounds is such an easy softball throw with these guys to get some remarks. So keep you updated on that, and hopefully we can have some interaction with that person. We are doing some hiring for positions. We have a park supervisor that has closed. We're reviewing those applications right now, finishing that up. We'll be doing an interview soon, and then once that park supervisor is brought on, we'll be posting for 2 additional park maintenance positions. We also have a recreation coordinator position that'll be under Liz that is getting posted, as well as an assistant harbor master. So a lot of hiring happening. People that might be interested in positions, just let them know, hey, go check out the city site.
you have anything for those like line items, so like we can do elevator pitches to people? Because I get people all the time asking me for stuff, but it's easier to sell if I have a little.
We have lists of grants and our top priorities. I gave a list to Larson.
Okay.
I was gonna add that on. I can go into it right now if it's okay with you.
Yeah.
I met with him on, yeah, we can distribute. It's all the different ones for the city, but you can look at the ones that are park related on there. And I did get a commitment for him for a earmark for the parking lot on Jerome and a suburban on that. So reminded my staff that had to do it, $500,000 there. So we went through a variety of stuff with him for funding, and that's one that it looked like a great project that would fit, and it's just not fitting any of the areas that we have. We're kind of in this working poor city kind of thing. If you're under 10,000 people, there's all these grants for you, and if you're over 50,000, there's all these opportunities for you. There's this, you know, in this 25 range, we don't qualify for some of the programs. And so that's what we were running in for this project. Oh yeah, if you're under 10,000, you can apply for it. Over 50,000, you can get it this way, but if you're in between, you just can't get it. So, and then Marina, we've got $1 million for that one from the county, rural county. We mentioned $500,000 from the conservation futures funding that we have for 3 parcels down in Friend Marsh to purchase. So, and we'll just continue to plug away. We have a North Shore or the waterfront area, which would benefit restoration, waterfront restoration, which a lot of that would be related to studying the shoreline along Windjammer Park and all the way out to Friend Marsh area that we own, and now we acquired more. Once we get this property, we'll have even more shoreline out there. So looking at the whole picture. So yeah, we can give them that copy of that 10 top one. The one we just gave Larson would be a good elevator. It's like a paragraph on it. So it's exactly what you're looking at, a little small paragraph, so you know. So you're welcome to write them separately and advocate for your areas that you want to do, but it gives you a nice little overview of what we're asking for, and that's the stuff we give them. So
I think with like stuff
and
like
we can
that,
add
and-
some of that stuff to it, and the things that you're working on, we can, if there's not on that top list, we can add to it. But
job listings and stuff, it'd be really helpful, because I don't know about folks, but I get people coming up to me and asking me like what's going on now, and I don't always have the information, or they're finding it out sooner than I am sometimes, based on things that they can attend or other people, you know, but having these little things, whether it's positions that are going to be hired, you know, or it's going to be grants and things like that, because it allows us, one, us being out in the community, talking to folks, to be able to be one more person to kind of help bring that positivity around and create some of that, you know, by doing the sales sort of face to face, and then being able to give these people, you know, that we encounter some better information, even if it's just, hey, yeah, there's staff, maintenance, health, and it's looking at such and such, go check it out here on the website, apply.
Yeah.
But knowing that, it goes a long way, and it helps us look more, me anyway, but look more prepared and more knowledgeable on what's going on.
And there's
helpful.
a lot, and we've had comments from council as well. Oh, wow, we didn't know this was happening. And they're really, I mean, it's hard to like not do information overload on them.
Yeah.
You know, Blaine does a good job with the administrators report, every month at the workshop with them. But I mean, he's covered everything in the city. So we try to give him like a handful of talking points without it being too cumbersome. But we've talked, you know, when I first came, we talked about doing a monthly Parks and Recreation report, which I've always done in other cities. And it's kind of fun. You know, we add in you know, pictures and just good updated. Hey, here's everything that's going on. And they can be quite large sometimes.
So Hank did an annual report, and that's something you should go to, and that could be pretty large, an annual report. So, yeah, when he did his annual report, I always added it into my, because he did it to the park board, and then I added it into my city administrator's report as attachment.
So that's a good idea, because there's a lot of things we do that people don't realize and take for granted, and also eliminates a lot of gossip about what's going on out there. public to, no, this is what we're focusing on.
But there's a lot, I mean, we have to be obviously very mobile and adaptive to things, A good example is the playground equipment that's taken out. We got notified, we went into the safety inspection, we had support beings that were totally rusted for it. It was a big safety issue. We had to remove equipment as soon as we could. And then you have a lot of people, oh, hey, I didn't know about this.
Yeah.
We did post things about it, but it's always a struggle. How do we get the information out without being so information overload that people just ignore it and send it out?
Well, we're both, I feel like in a position, at least what's happened to me, maybe it's just minor, but I feel like I had worked doing lobby work as well as sales work with folks that I encounter. And so knowing what to sell them on, or what to help, build the optimism or better yet, to counter cynicism, was really helpful by having just even anything like that. Even little bits, give me a sentence, I can make a paragraph. That's not gonna be a problem for me. But if I can, have the information to be prepared to say this is what's going on in society, let's build energy because it's, folks that are out there that are going to help get all this stuff go through. It's their tax dollars. So we continue to empower them with the appropriate amount of information.
So I try to give you highlights in this director's report, but I can certainly send out an email with a lot more and just kind of say, here's what to know, what's going on. Parks and Rec. We really appreciate these efforts with everything's been doing. Senator and looking at procuring additional parking and stuff like that. So it's really going back.
Yeah, don't hear what I'm not saying. The reports are fantastic. I'm just hoping to have something else potentially as, some bullet point blurbs, like with a little bit of Cliff's notes highlights, so I can continue doing the man of the street sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Folks.
Yeah, we kind of got that already with the legislature, so I just show you what we're using. Good bullet points, because when I go, you're right, when I go to talk to him, when I talked to Larson, I had a bullet point, I could sit down and he could kind of write and he had some written topics and kind of a little thing, and then I kind of give my rest of the story over, so they can walk away with that. So we even have another list. It doesn't have all the paragraphs. It has on the list of the range that we have. Or our upcoming, because our grants administrator does a really good job of tracking that. So with her expertise, we've been really upping our game. Being more aggressive.
Couple of last things. We are updating the field use agreement. Hope to have that go to the soccer club here soon, but that'll be for all the needs and field users. One of the things that we've updated with that is we're increasing the fee by 50 cents from $8.50 to $9 per participant. This really needs revision in our cost recovery methodology, something that we'll want to talk about in the committee. A flat rate really doesn't keep in mind impact to the fields. It's just, whether they use it one time or 100 times, it's just $9 a participant as a one-time flat fee. So we need that needs a rehaul. We'll work on it. Want to make sure we give them plenty of time to notice. Everyone, we're hoping that with 50% increase, they'll make a little bit of a dent in our maintenance, but we just want to give them a heads up. Hey, we're going to make revisions to this so we can try and with us as we implement it next year.
So we put it in scheduled fees on the 15th.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Let's see. Let's talk about a couple things that are going on over at the center. A major one is September 20th from 10 to 2 will be the resource fair. We'll talk about it briefly.
Yeah,
Anything
come
else
sit
you
by
want
you.
to give an update on this?
Yeah, well, just touching base on the field use agreement, part of after getting that field usage agreement, and is getting all the information from the leagues on when they're utilizing the field. So coming up with an application process where they're giving us the dates and times that they're reserving it for, and we're approving it. I think that it's kind of happened backwards of that in the past. And so that's one of my first priorities, and because after doing that, then we'll have a clear idea of when our park spaces and fields will be available for us to do any other additional programming for recreation in the parks. So that's kind of the first thing there as far as additional recreation. But meanwhile, at the center, we know when our availability is there, so we can really start ramping up our recreation usage of the space there. But we do have some already planned programs happening, and would love to have you come and check them out, be a part of any of them. The resource fair is on the 20th, and so that's specifically for the 15 and older community. But it really has been an opportunity for us to build partnerships with lots of community businesses. We get a lot of support for that, and not from just businesses specific for older adults, but we have a lot of local businesses that support it by in their presence, but also monetary. So it's a good program for us there. And then we have the quilt show is that weekend too, and that garners a lot of attention from off island. So we mail out these flyers to other quilt show quilt groups and stores, I guess, we call it, like, you know, kind of in the region. And a lot of people from off island will come. It's a 2-day event, and it's that weekend. What are the days that weekend? So that's September 23rd and 24th. So it's a busy September for us, for sure. But that's a really, it's put on by our Senior Bees is the name of our quilt group, but they fill the whole center with quilts, and also it's fiber arts this year as well, which is really cool. And the Navy helps support it. They send volunteers to help set up and take down, and that's a really cool event as well to check out. And September is, we're getting ready to put out our next newsletter. So right now we do quarterly newsletters, and I foresee that we'll continue to. This will probably be the last newsletter that's specific for our older adult programming. And then what we're looking at doing is growing that existing program into our program for all recreation. So I'm looking forward to working with you, Carrie and Kate, in the subcommittee for programs and kind of building on that. But the goal is our one that will come out for January at the end of the December will be a broader newsletter. So that's kind of the outlook on timeline for that. And that's kind of the first step of getting that information out everywhere. I've been working with Sabrina. We're talking about how to market parks and recreations. We've got a meeting to discuss that and what that looks like, but also utilizing kind of the systems that we have in place to get the information out, like the utility bill. So Sabrina's reached out and said, okay, what can we put in with the utility bill to get this out? So that's something that we can, because we're looking at right now, we have a really good reach for our newsletter among older adults, but how do we get this out to the wider community? So that's what we're looking at as well.
Yeah, so she'll put some of the programming, she's talking about upping that, and she's doing that, I think, bi-monthly right now, and she's upping and doing it monthly as an insert, so all residents, and so open it up, and some people might throw it away, some people might look at that flyer there. It's a different medium. I think the idea we try to do is different mediums, and so people look at things in different mediums.
Mhm.
So
It's
yeah.
been neat though, people reaching out to me with what they would like to see for recreation. Middle Eastern dance class is one of the latest I was contacted about. I kind of put some feelers out for different dances, and that's for adult dances, and would include things like belly dancing and so it's neat because we have some really cool groups in North Woodview that already exist, and there is the belly dancing group, and so they're very excited about this, to have somewhere to teach others and to, you know, kind of grow their groups. So this is a neat opportunity for those smaller interest groups to kind of have a space and a place to grow their voice and include others in the community. It's fun. It's been fun.
What's Sabrina's? That's her. What's her position?
She's our public information officer, communications and IT manager. Communications and IT manager.
Yeah. She started off as PIO,
Yeah.
but when duties expanded, so they
Communications
expanded.
manager, which includes being the public information officer.
We've all been just leapfrogging each other on our summer vacations. Sally just barely got back, so he's trying to get caught up, but do you have anything to link to it?
The only thing I had on my list that Bob asked me about this morning was this. I don't know if this is the time for that yet or not.
Oh, yeah, so we are removing the old Christmas tree downtown and have met with Margaret, talked about that. And we have a couple options for selections of the new city Christmas tree. Right now, we're looking at the location for that.
You have access to you sent pictures of the tree that he has recommended.
Yeah,
It's a cool looking tree. That's why I just thought the pictures were very neat.
It's a tree at Beats the Park.
Well, this one's in a pot, so we'll be able to move it back and forth. So the thought is we put it where the old one is for a month or two during the holidays and then move it down to the gas station and keep it down there. So it's not blocking the street all summer long. And we could build a facade around it that would hold, look like Christmas theme kind of stuff for when it's in there. And it's 22 feet tall is what he told me. The only thing that we have that I saw missing in that report was the cost for moving it, which is on us. Because at 22 feet, we're gonna have to tip it over to bring it into town. But once we got it downtown, we just scoop it up with the loader, move it back and forth in positions for until we got a permanent home that we wanted it to live. Then we take it out and plant it. But that was kind of our solution because that street corner is not very good for a Christmas tree because there's so much blind spot for traffic, people walking out there, cars coming around the corner, can't see people. So streets had some issues there with that. So, yeah, there it is. It's a beauty, but it's in a huge pot. It's 4,000 pounds approximately.
we have to remind me which one, because there's.
We talked about doing a fake tree also, but I don't know, we're Pacific Northwest and real trees seem like a thing, right? You know, I mean,
You can't put that in a trailer with a ball hitch on it.
well, we actually have a trailer we could put it on, tandem axle, but it's 22 feet tall. That's the problem. Stoplights wouldn't like it very well.
But we were talking about moving the tree up in Beats the Park, right?
It's sick and no, it's the
Not on
one.
Big Sled, not on Big Sled, it's on Pioneer.
Oh, Pioneer.
Okay.
Pioneer.
It's got some diseases going on right now, so
Yeah.
it's got issues, so we're trying to look for a viable replacement for it, but that place isn't a very good place for it. But finding a new place for it is difficult too, so this would give us options for a few years to move it back and forth until we get what we want settled out.
Eventually, with whatever happens to that land on the corner of Bay Shore and
Sure.
Pioneer could be a great thing as well, eventually. But eventually,
I-
there's a lot of asbestos in the way of eventually.
I think he put in his report, he figured it was roughly about $3,500. Like I said, the only thing I saw out of that was a little bit off was probably transportation. And so that's maybe going and getting it. Sometimes when you move a tree like that, you put them in a box truck because you don't want to get wind torn on the highway and stuff like that. We might see if they can deliver it even. They said they would wrap it, so we could put it on an open air trailer. But maybe Liz wants to bring it up to the senior center for celebration.
Let's do it.
We definitely want it in a location where we can do, fun community activation. Do the whole skit, and Christmas carols and lighting up the Christmas tree. It's fun. It's a fun world.
Yeah, they could. Call it, give it a name, let the kids name it.
So we'll keep you updated on that. That's all I have for you guys.
Okay, member comments?
You did mention that in the email, grants, elections committee.
Yeah, for the Recreation Conservation Office. Yeah, they interviewed me. So I'll review and work grants.
So, but is that a government level kind of thing? Or is it a state?
Yeah, it's a state level grant program.
The other thing is there's some, they call it in general, story time signs. Those look like they recently been refurbished.
They were put up like 5 years ago.
Yeah, that was, Hank
And
was
then
involved.
But they
may
look
have
like
been recently
they've got
painted.
new inserts.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
they-
yeah.
they tried to put them up, yeah.
They're supposed to switch them out, I think,
Is it
every
library?
couple of
Yes.
months, change the story.
Library does it, Snow Isle does
Yeah,
it, yeah,
the
it was one of their ideas when we were doing it.
Yeah.
One of the suggestions was putting that in there.
Story walk.
Story
So it
walk,
does look fresh and new.
Yeah.
yeah, I've done it with my grandchildren too, so. Once a year they come out here, it's usually a new book, so, yeah.
Trash cans at Fort Legit, when we have the increase in traffic with all the sports meeting there, the amount of trash that those of us that have adopted that park pick up in this time is crazy. It's usually around all the wood lines because there's no trash cans, you know, once you get off the fence lines, essentially away from the playground, and it's football on the upper fields. And then when older kids typically go to the edge of the woods by the baseball field, that just becomes a place to throw cans. And so I don't know if it's possible, but all those things are accessible by vehicle rather than, you know, but it's just those have been the spots that pull out massive cans, Capri Suns, you know, all those things that are in the nature of kids snacks. It's not like,
So the back half of this golf course is very difficult because we can't get vehicles back there. And we're having a horrible time right now. And it just started, it was doing pretty good. I mean, with people doing illegal dumping, they bring their home waste out there and dump them in the cans, just overfill them and then boil them over and get all over the place.
I would wonder if we could put like some cans along the perimeter of the sports fields, you know, because people, if they have an option between dropping it right there or walking 50 meters, they drop it.
The issue with that is the garbage service doesn't like to go very far for the cans. So when they drive their trucks out there, we have to keep in mind that we don't want them driving their trucks across the field and hitting boxes and stuff.
Just by
That's what
the,
they'll
by the
do.
walkways and by the, you know, like the, in between the baseball field and that wood line or right next to the baseball field, those are the places where it's a few minutes along that wood line. And then along that back fence line where the parents sit underneath that goalpost where they do
So
practice, and then along the football fields and like for the entrance to the walking trail that kind of passes up to the neighborhood. That's where I'm seeing the most stuff. That's where I picked up. I mean, we got a bag and a half yesterday.
The service for that is our issue that we're struggling with on that right now is because there's no truck access in there and they won't go that far to hand roll them out. So that would mean that we can't be out there rolling them back and forth.
Who does the one in,
I'll roll them if you put
who
them out
does the
there.
one in Friend Marsh?
The one in Fred Marsh.
Yeah, it's
the one-
rolled out there quite a ways.
Yeah, they do that one. They drive in that one. They go to that one, but
They drive out there on that?
yeah, on that, on the gravel
It's
path.
drivable, it's
Yeah.
drivable? Okay, wow. I didn't look at
They
it.
look the little truck.
Little truck. okay.
If we can think about maybe a strategy at some point,
Yeah, we'll
and
talk
to
about
even just chain them up near some of those fences. You know, since we adopted that park a long time ago, we'll just figure out access to drag them back out there. I'll do it, or one of my guys will, because it's getting a little bit out of control.
Well, you know, maybe it needs a gravel path through there or something that we can have a service access to that back fence line or something in the near future where they can drive out there with their truck and service them.
Anyway, it's just something that the trash to be. And now the other thing, back to the signs. When we mount the signs, I've had a lot of comments from people again that mounting the signs on a post so they look much more like a podium than they do on a vertical. So like we're talking about the dairy oak trees, if we can mount them like on an angled post, so they sit like a podium. For viewing as opposed to being straight up and down on a post. Some folks have had requests for that with some of our information signage. Easier too for them to be able to scan QR codes, especially when we have some population that maybe has some shakiness and mobility and things like that. Some of that vertical, it tends to not want to scan as well. Just some thoughts. You can put them on enough angle where it's still readable as a vertical, but also, you know, able to view at a different angle. And we're at a height that people with wheelchairs are still able to access them and reach them with their phones as well.
Anything else? Okay, continuation of our future agenda items. Are we gonna need to vote on? the chair?
I'll put that on the next agenda, hopefully. I can get some applications and maybe we'll have another member too, so I'll put that on the next agenda, yeah.
Chair and vice chair.
Yeah, we have two
What?
openings, so, you know, if you know anyone that, and I'll have to go back. I've had so many people, over the months say, oh yeah, I'd like to be involved. So I'll try and get notice to those people. But if you know anyone that might be interested in being part of the board, I know vacancies.
Yeah, the application's on the website, just. There's a board and committee page and it's,
I'll see if I can put together a little email, just briefly about it with the link that you can just forward easy to everyone.
and then I'll just continue to add like subcommittee updates that then when you guys meet, if there's anything to share at the meetings, that'll kind of just be a placeholder.
Should we go ahead and adjourn the meeting now? All right, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 11:32.
Doesn't trip. You can go anywhere.